I was a sophomore when it happened. I stayed late after school to help my history teacher organize old textbooks in a storage room tucked behind the library. It was winter, and the sun dipped below the horizon before 5 p.m., which made the long corridors feel even more deserted than usual. By the time I finished, it was 6:30. Everyone was gone, and the janitors hadn't started their rounds yet. The air felt heavy, still. I headed to the front doors, but as I reached for the bar to push them open, the hallway lights flickered once, then cut out completely. I stood there in silence, surrounded by total darkness. I pulled out my phone to use the flashlight, but it was dead, completely black. I hadn't even noticed the battery running low. Sighing, I turned around and began walking toward the back entrance instead, hoping maybe it would still be unlocked. That's when I heard it. The bell. It was the same loud, metallic school bell that rang between periods, but distorted, slower, echoing. It rang exactly once. I froze. There were no after-hours activities scheduled that night. I remembered that clearly because my friend Eric was annoyed he had to go home early, no basketball practice. So why would the bell go off? I turned around. Nothing. The hallway looked the same. Lockers lining the walls, trophy cases dark and full of dust. I passed the stairwell and decided to head to the main office. Maybe someone had accidentally locked me in, and I could call security from there. That's when I heard the second bell. I checked my watch, 3:17, which didn't make sense. It was dark outside, and I knew it was past 6. But the old analog face showed the hand stuck on 3:17 exactly. I kept walking, unease climbing up my spine. That's when I noticed something odd. All the posters on the walls, the ones advertising the spring play and the upcoming blood drive, they were different. Older, like decades old. One had a drawing of a rotary phone. Another warned about duck and cover drills. When I reached the office, I noticed the glass was cracked and dusty, as if it hadn't been used in years. I peered inside and saw ancient office supplies, yellowed paper, even an ashtray on the secretary's desk. I blinked. The ashtray was gone. The room was suddenly clean, bright, normal. Then the bell rang again, 3:17. My watch hadn't moved, still stuck on 3:17. I turned to leave, but the hallway had changed. It no longer led to the exit. Instead, it stretched endlessly in both directions. The walls were stained, the lockers rusted. The lights overhead flickered to life, but only a few. Enough to see, but just barely. Something moved at the far end. A shape? A figure? I squinted, heart racing. It looked like a person standing near the end of the corridor, half hidden in shadow. I called out, "Hey, I'm locked in. Can you help?" The figure didn't move. I stepped forward. "Hello?" Still nothing. Then it turned and bolted toward me, fast. Faster than any human should move. I ran. I didn't care which direction, just away. My shoes slammed against the tile floor, echoing against the walls. I turned corners blindly, past old classrooms filled with broken desks and chalkboards scrawled with strange symbols I didn't understand. The floor beneath me creaked like it was rotting. A foul, decaying smell followed me, like moldy paper and stagnant water. I could feel something behind me, almost brushing against my back as I ran. I didn't dare look. Finally, I ducked into a janitor's closet and slammed the door behind me. Inside was pitch black, but at least I could hear myself breathing. I pressed my ear to the door. Nothing. Then, footsteps. Slow. Deliberate, getting closer. They stopped right outside. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. And then the handle turned. I braced myself. But the door didn't open. Instead, a voice whispered from the other side, childlike, raspy. It made my skin crawl. "It's always 317 in here." I wanted to scream, but my throat locked up. I sank to the floor, eyes wide in the darkness. Then I woke up. At least, I thought I did. I was lying on the floor outside the library, back where I started. My phone was beside me, fully charged. I checked the time. 6:42 p.m. I ran to the front doors. This time they opened. The sky was dark, but the air felt real again. Crisp, cold. I got home and told my parents I'd just stayed late studying. They didn't press me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I hadn't just dreamed it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the whisper, the hallway, the ashtray. My watch still said 317, even after I changed the battery. The next day, I did some research in the library. I found an old archived article from 1977. A student had died in the school, locked in overnight during a freak snowstorm. He was trying to get help after being separated from a group during a lockdown drill. No one found his body until the next morning. The time of death was estimated at 3:17 a.m. There was even a blurry photo of him. And though it had been decades, something about his shape, his build, looked eerily like the shadow I saw in the hallway. Since then, I've never stayed in a school building past dark. And if I ever hear the bell ring after hours, I don't check the time. I run.
I was never the type to believe in ghosts or haunted buildings. That was until I got locked inside the old drama room one night my senior year. And now, I can't walk past it without feeling the hairs rise on the back of my neck. Our high school was built in the early 1960s, and while most of it had been renovated, the drama wing hadn't changed in decades. The floors creaked, the lights buzzed overhead, and the whole place smelled faintly of mildew and sawdust. I was part of the stage crew for our fall production of Macbeth, and one Thursday night, we were staying late to prep for opening weekend. Around 7:45, everyone started packing up. Our drama teacher, Mr. Bailey, made sure we put everything away before we left. I told him I needed just a few extra minutes to finish tightening one of the backdrops. He gave me a half-hearted, "Don't be too long," and I waved him off. Big mistake. About 10 minutes later, I finished up and grabbed my backpack. I headed for the side exit, but when I pulled the handle, nothing happened. Locked. Strange. But maybe they were just being cautious. I tried the front door. Same result. Then, I tried the main hallway that connected to the rest of the school. Also locked. I didn't panic right away. I figured the custodians were still in the building somewhere, so I knocked on the main hallway doors and waited. Nothing. I knocked louder. Still nothing. That's when I noticed the lights were dimmer than before. I could still see, but the usual overhead fluorescents were flickering ever so slightly, and it was dead quiet. No hum from the vending machines. No buzzing from the backstage power supply. Just silence. I took out my phone to call Mr. Bailey, but I had no service. Not just weak signal, 0 bars. I walked to every corner of the drama wing, even near the windows. Still nothing. I decided to wait it out. Worst case scenario, someone would realize I was missing and come back for me, right? About 20 minutes passed. That's when things got weird. I heard someone whisper my name. Not loudly, more like a breath, barely audible. I spun around. The room was empty. "Hello?" I called out. Silence. I told myself it was just my imagination, or maybe someone outside playing a prank. But then I saw the curtains move on the stage. They swayed slightly, as if someone had just walked behind them. I grabbed a prop flashlight from one of the bins and climbed onto the stage. Slowly, I pulled the curtain back. Nothing, just empty risers and the faint smell of paint. But then the flashlight flickered and went out. I smacked it, tried to get it working again. No luck. I looked around the darkened stage and noticed something on the floor near the center. It was a costume. An old one, not from our show. It looked like something from the 70s, tattered, with dark red stains near the collar. I leaned in, squinting. The stains weren't part of the design. They were real. I stood up fast, heart pounding. I turned to head back to the tech room when I heard it again. This time, not a whisper, but a full voice. "You shouldn't be here." It came from the catwalk above the stage. I looked up, and for just a second, I saw a figure standing there, tall, pale, with a white painted face like a mime or clown. The lights above the stage flickered, and when they came back on, he was gone. That's when I panicked. I sprinted off the stage, back to the door I'd tried earlier, still locked. I banged on it, screaming now. "Let me out!" Then the lights cut out completely. Total darkness. My breathing was ragged. I couldn't see a thing. I pulled out my phone again, but the screen wouldn't turn on, even though it was fully charged earlier. I was frozen in place, terrified to move. That's when I heard soft footsteps coming from the direction of the costume closet. Then laughter. It echoed throughout the room, high-pitched and unstable. "Do you want a part in the show?" the voice said again. "We've been waiting. So long." Suddenly, every door slammed shut at once, even the prop storage closet behind me. I felt something rush past me, a wind like someone running by. But there was no one there. I did the only thing I could think of. I ran into the tech booth and locked the door behind me. I crouched down behind the soundboard, trying not to make a sound. From the booth window, I could see the stage, and I swear the curtains opened on their own. The stage lights flicked on, and there he was, the figure. He stepped forward slowly, like an actor about to deliver a monologue. His eyes were black. Not dark, literally black, like holes punched through his face. He held a long, thin rod, maybe a broken curtain pole or a piece of piping. He raised it like a sword and pointed toward the booth. "You're next," he whispered, and then everything went black. I woke up in the nurse's office, surrounded by teachers and the security guard. Mr. Bailey said he came back to look for something he forgot and found me unconscious in the hallway. They claimed I must have fainted. I told them about the doors, the figure, the lights. They just gave me nervous smiles and suggested I see a counselor. But I looked it up later. Back in 1975, a student actor died during a school play. He was accidentally impaled by a prop sword during a fight scene, and the show was canceled permanently. That play? Macbeth. I've never been back in that room since, but others have told me they've heard strange things during rehearsals. Whispers, footsteps, someone watching them from the catwalk. All I know is he's still waiting for someone to take the stage.
I was a senior when I got detention for the first and last time. I'd skipped gym a few too many times, and Mr. Dorsey, the assistant principal, had finally had enough. He gave me 3 days of after-school detention in the library. No big deal, right? I'd just kill time on my phone or pretend to do homework. But on the second day, something strange happened. It was winter, and a snowstorm had rolled in faster than anyone expected. When the final bell rang, the intercom buzzed, and the secretary's voice crackled. "All students not in detention, please exit the building immediately. All after-school programs are canceled. I almost got up to leave too. But then Mr. Dorsey himself walked into the library, holding a clipboard. He gave me a look that said, "Don't even try it." And I sank back into my chair. "Just an hour," he said. "I'll be back to unlock the doors." He shut the library door behind him, and I was alone. Or so I thought. About 20 minutes in, I heard something metal rattle behind the circulation desk. I figured it was the radiator at first. It always made noise. But this was different. Sharp, rhythmic, like keys being shaken. I peered over the desk. Nothing there. Then I saw it. An old janitor's key ring, hanging from a hook that hadn't been there yesterday. There must have been 20 keys on it, all dull silver except for one. That one was black, matte black, smooth and shiny. I don't know why, but it drew me in. I got up and walked behind the desk. The key ring swayed gently, like someone had just let it go. I hesitated, then reached out and grabbed it. The second I touched it, I heard a faint scraping noise across the floor behind me. I whipped around. Nothing. But the library had changed. The lights weren't as bright. The windows, normally covered in posters about overdue books, were bare, and the snow outside looked wrong. It was falling upward. I blinked. Surely I was imagining it. I tried the library door, locked. I jiggled the handle, knocked, even called out. Nothing. "Okay," I muttered to myself. "Cool, fine. Weird, but fine." Then the intercom crackled again, but instead of the secretary's voice, it was static, then breathing. Long, slow, labored breath, and then a whisper. "Find the door." What door? I turned in a slow circle. Everything looked normal, almost. But as I scanned the shelves, I saw one book that didn't belong. It was sticking out halfway, like someone had pulled it recently. I walked over and slid it out. The book was completely blank, but the second I opened it, I heard a creak, and a low groaning sound came from the back of the library near the archives. I walked toward it, heart hammering in my chest. The double doors to the archive room were wide open, though they'd always been locked before. Inside, the air was colder. Stale. Dust floated in the air like snowflakes. In the middle of the room was a single locker. A school locker, just like the ones in the hall, but this one was standing alone in the center of the room. Rusted. Its number was scratched off, and hanging from its handle was a black key. Not just any key, the exact same one I had on the ring. I took the black key off the ring and inserted it into the lock. It fit perfectly. With a click, the locker creaked open. Inside was a mirror. Just a mirror. But it wasn't reflecting the room I was in. It was showing the library. But not the way it looked now. It was the library how it looked decades ago. Old furniture, different carpet, different bookshelves. And there was a person in it. A janitor. He was facing away from me, hunched over, mopping the floor. Then he turned around. His face was pale and cracked like old porcelain. His eyes were hollow, and he was smiling. Not a friendly smile. Wide, crooked, wrong. He mouthed something I couldn't hear. I leaned closer, and he slammed his hand against the other side of the glass. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over a fallen book card. The lights overhead flickered, and I ran. I didn't care about the key or the locker or any of it. I just ran for the main library door. It was open, no keys, no locks. The hallway outside was normal again. I walked out and nearly bumped into Mr. Dorsey. "There you are," he said, clearly annoyed. "I've been looking for you for 20 minutes. Why didn't you come out when I unlocked the door?" I just stared at him. I thought it was locked, I said. He rolled his eyes. Number I opened it 10 minutes ago. You were probably too buried in your phone. I didn't argue. I just grabbed my stuff and left. But here's the thing. When I got home, I reached into my pocket to grab my earbuds, and the black key was there. I never picked it up. I dropped it in the archive room. But it's been with me ever since. Sometimes it disappears for a while, then shows up again in my backpack, in my drawer, in my jacket pocket, waiting. I haven't been back to the library since that night, but I did ask around, and it turns out a janitor did die there, about 40 years ago. He was working late during a snowstorm and collapsed in the archive room. They say he wasn't found for 3 days, and the key to that room, still missing.